Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Fan View. My name's James, and I was looking for something to do with one of our correspondents potentially for a podcast today on Tuesday, and I was stuck for ideas. And then Friday morning, a bit of a bombshell happened, and I went, Dan, we need to talk. Let me introduce you to our Liverpool correspondent, Dan Lord, who's going to be discussing Friday's shock announcement that Jurgen Klopp will be leaving Liverpool at the end of the season. How are you, Dan?
Yeah, I'm all right now. Now the shock's passed. I'm good.
Was it like completely because it felt for us neutrals, it was just a complete jolt out of the blue. No one saw it coming. There was no murmur or anything. He'd re-signed in 2022 to extend to 2026. Did anybody up in the north have any idea this was coming?
No, none of the people in the know had any idea as well. When you listen to stories now, all the reporters who were close to the club, nobody had a clue. They had a slight inkling that something was going on because they changed the time of the press conference
Hmm.
and brought it to the afternoon. So they were thinking one of two things: it's a transfer, or it's a new contract, because there's a few kind of contract negotiations going on in the background at the moment. So yeah, it took everyone by surprise. I mean, particularly me. So I was at work Friday morning, and my brother-in-law called, and he's a City stroke Blackburn fan, and it come up on my phone. I was like, oh, what's this prick want now? So I answered the phone, and he's like, hi, yeah, this is Paul from Samaritans. I just wanted to know if you wanted to chat after today's announcement. I was like, what are you talking about, you idiot? And he's like, Klopp's going at the end of the season, and I just went, shut up, I'm going. Put the phone down and just went on the phone and said, oh, he's having a laugh here, and then just went on Sky Sports because I thought if it's on Sky Sports straight in my face, it's there, and he was there, and I was like, oh my god. So yeah, didn't expect it at all. He'd only signed another extension to his contract, kind of, last year to 26, and I thought he'd probably go after 26. I mean, last year was a tough year. You could see the strain it put on him, and then he kind of came back a bit revitalized, didn't he? After the summer, we got rid of some of the older group, and he's 2.0, as you like to call it. And you thought, he's got his mojo back, but yeah, obviously not.
What was your reaction when you hear that news? What are you doing in your mind at first? Because you'll see the headline, he's leaving. Are you asking like why? I suppose that's probably the first question. Why? What's happened?
Well, it was, but also almost immediately. That's when simultaneously they kind of released the Liverpool TV, LFC TV, kind of, interview as such, or where Klopp's just speaking, and it's like, kind of sympathised with him a little bit, and I kind of quite felt sorry for him because he's blood and guts. He's such an emotional man. And I'm not saying different managers, other managers aren't the same, but he's probably a 15, 16, 17 hour a day man working. You know what I mean?
We
And
outwardly see his energy, I think
yeah,
is part of your point. Yeah.
yeah, well, that's the thing, and that's the thing with Klopp. Just as a person, I don't care about the manager part of it, because if I'm perfectly honest, there's loads of better tacticians out there. It's just his man management. It's the just the connection he had with the club, the players immediately from day one, and he's just been just that kind of that idol, that figure that, I never used to watch press conferences of Liverpool managers. Now I don't miss one. I just want to hear what I'm intrigued all the time to what he, has to say. And I know he's, one of the reasons it didn't surprise me that much, his demeanor has changed in these press conferences. You can see he doesn't like doing them anymore. He's sick of the questions. He's sick of the journalists playing on his words. And yeah, you can see he's kind of beaten and going down. And so when he said he just doesn't have the energy anymore, it was like, well, yeah, it kind of shows.
So we think that he informed the owners, FSG, in November.
That's what I'm
Um,
saying, yeah.
yeah, and then I guess there was kind of a period of, well, let's make sure it's right. Your rivals down in Manchester, his manager changed his mind and stayed nearly another 10 years or so, didn't he? I think from his original intentions stepped down. And I think it was quite right. Liverpool games that space, but also it sounds like there was I'm not going to say no attempt to persuade him, but they knew that they weren't going to get him to change his mind. He'd made his mind up that he was definitively going to go. I presume you obviously watched the video that Liverpool released.
Yeah.
Did that change your reaction from your instant kind of shock to how you felt about it afterwards? Did you by that point sort of within a half hour go, I accept this?
Yeah, I accepted it almost straight away. As soon as I saw his interview, I was like, well, I can understand it. You can't do this forever. And, everything, well, nothing's forever, is it? And, I expected another year or two, but, he can go with his head held high, and nobody will begrudge him for going on his terms. And when he does, and he almost alluded to that by kind of saying, if I don't walk, they're never going to sack me. In roundabout terms, he said that, because he even said, like, last year, any other manager in Liverpool would have probably been sacked. The finish we had and the performances, and it was just never going to happen. The connection was that tight that he kind of had to make the decision because it had never been made for him. And like you said, he probably did say October, November, and maybe they said, right, let's sit on it until after Christmas in the new year. If you still feel the same, then that gives us time enough to get it out there and start looking, because, there's rumours that, they've already had feelers out, but I find that impossible to believe, but the word had got out already. If feelers are going around and they're talking to other managers' agents and stuff like that, it had got out. So I do think that they're not even starting looking until now. They've probably done all the due diligence in the background and checked out where they want to go and who they want to look at. But actually approaching people, I think that's probably going to start soonish.
Yeah, I'd not considered that. That's a great point. Because I'd said on Friday, and I did a stream pretty much straight afterwards, and I said it wouldn't have surprised me that if the announcement came now because Liverpool knew who they were getting, maybe even perhaps it was already done and they went, right, you're free to do your business. Now people know we're not looking. You're absolutely right. There's no way that no agent wouldn't have leaked to someone, oh, hold on, Liverpool are inquiring about managers here. Something's not right. You're absolutely right. So probably Liverpool probably haven't approached anyone yet then.
No, I don't think they have. And, I think it's I think they've been considering what the direction is, and I think they've probably decided that, are they going to get a all singing, all dancing coach a bit like Klopp, who kind of runs the show pretty much, or are they going to go back to the director of football and get kind of a younger, inexperienced coach in to just concentrate on the coaching side of things, and the director of football will kind of do the rest. So it'll be interesting to see which way they go. I'd like them to do the latter, if I'm honest, because you've got more options then, I think. And I don't know. He's proved that the kind of tactical and analytic side of things can be successful, with the recruitment they've got or had to get them where they were, proves that works. Because let's face it, a lot of the personnel who were kind of first teamers or when they won the league, etc. Think of Mane. He was decent at Southampton. In his first season, nobody ever thought of him as being this superstar. And Robertson, he was bloody relegated at Hull, for God's sake. And then, now he's considered one of the best fullbacks or left backs in the league, or was at least. I think Van Dijk was the only real massive name that everybody really wanted. And, he spoke to Chelsea and he spoke to City at the time and chose Klopp. And that's down to Klopp, I think. And that's the thing we will really miss is kind of his drawing power. Liverpool has its own drawing power as a club, but to draw players, I think Klopp is monumental in all these kind of transfers we brought in, and a massive emphasis on characters and personalities as well. When he really wants to get to know that player, that he'll fit in with the club. So that's that'll be a massive miss.
Have you reflected on the announcement in the sense of, would you rather have not known? One of the big questions I had, again, it was quite instant reaction to what happened. But one of the questions was, how do you think it'll impact them for the rest of the season? And I said, it's very dependent on the results, right? If you beat Chelsea and you beat Arsenal, everyone goes, great time. And if you lose the 2 games and people go, well, that announcement's derailed their title bid or something like that. So it will be defined by results, I guess. But the timing did seem, as you're coming into, we just had a period of quiet, I think, even though you had cup semi-finals, and now there's these 2 really big league games coming up. Are you a little bit surprised about the timing, or would you rather Liverpool just kept it under wraps, or do you think they couldn't have?
Um, I don't really know. I mean, like you said, it could go one of two ways. Obviously, the kind of the emotion now at every single game, even Norwich, the atmosphere was electric, and I'm guessing it's probably going to be for the rest of the season now, and actually, just appreciate Klopp while he's there right through. Whether they control that emotion in the right way is remains to be seen. I suppose you can get over emotional, can't you, and lose your head. So it's having that balance between the two. I think doing it early is probably the best thing in regards to if they are going to start putting feelers round. It's come out from Klopp's mouth, and it's not like, oh, he's out the door, or someone's pushing him out. There's talks of this, that, and the other. That way, it might be down to contract negotiations with some of the bigger stars, and actually saying, before you sign this contract, know that I'm not going to be here. I think there's something today there about Van Dijk this afternoon that kind of got reported that he's not sure where his future lies. And obviously the media speculate as in, oh, he's off. And I think that's the way I read that was like, well, it depends who comes in. Do they want me around? Not will I stay? Yeah. Do they want me around? I think he's almost 33 now, or he is 33. And he'll probably happily sign a new contract if whoever comes in wants him around. And he probably knows that if Klopp was staying, that he would want him around. And Trent's in the middle of things. Madrid are sniffing, and the Salah situation as well.
Mo was the one people were saying straight away. A few people said, "Oh, that's Salah gone to Saudi Arabia." You can say that because he might be reinvigorated himself by a new manager challenge, right?
Yeah, it could be. And I was under the impression he probably would go to Saudi sooner rather than later. But I think with the way it's going, and actually the people who've gone to Saudi want to come back because it's that bad, I think he's still in his plum. He can play in any top league around the world. Still can Salah. He's that much of an athlete. So he may move on, but it may be to a Madrid or a Paris or somewhere like that. And my chances are somewhere else. I don't think it'll be Saudi.
Does it make the rest of the season more important? I suppose that's putting at the heartstrings a little bit. It's not like you don't want to win trophies anyway. Of course you do. But do you think there's a psychological edge to that this has just become way more important now for Liverpool?
I think there could be if we like you say if we beat Chelsea and then go on and get at least a draw against Arsenal, then if we've got a bit of a gap or like it sits now from March, April, I kind of fancy us to ride on the back of that wave, really, and all for Klopp and this, that, and the other. It wouldn't surprise me if we won the quadruple. We've been there, seen it, done it. I'd say been there, seen it, done it. We've been in this situation before.
Obviously, no one's done that, mate.
But we've got a better squad than we had then. Some of the young players who've stepped up this season have been outstanding, and I want to dream a little bit now, I think.
Every football fan should be allowed to do so. If you dared to dream about the after and what you'd like.
I think, like I said before, I think I'd like to take. I think we're looking at big characters to want to come in and take over, who would run the place like a Klopp. Then it's probably looking at somebody like Simeone, which I think he's a great manager, but he's not a Liverpool manager. Ancelotti, I think, recently just signed a new contract. He would be one who could just come in and take this group of players and go on. But I'd rather look at, there's loads of talk about Xabi Alonso, obviously, and that was always going to come just because of his links to Liverpool and his good run or his good season so far with Leverkusen. I'd take a Xabi Alonso with a good kind of director of football. There's talk of Michael Edwards coming back. They're all rumours at the moment. There's so much going around. I'd take De Zerbi. I think he's a great coach, and we'd have a director of football above him. I'd take. There's the young guy at Sporting who's doing well. I was going to
say the young guy at Spurs is going to slap you then, mate.
Well, I mean, there's talk about Ange, isn't there? Because of Ange's,
Yes, he was a
for
Liverpool fan as
Liverpool
a kid.
as a
Yeah, we know. Yeah.
youngster. Yeah, but somebody like Ange would take as well. But he wouldn't leave Tottenham after year one. That's for sure. Regardless of whatever he thought about Liverpool, but that kind of manager, someone who's got something to prove, other than somebody who's won it all. And I don't know. I think I'd go that way. And I think the squad that's left behind, this version 2.0 or whatever Klopp said it, I can't remember how he says it, 2.0 or something like that. I can't remember, but it's good to go, isn't it? You know, it's there, it's ready. You know,
Do you think that's why as well, in the sense, just to kind of jump back a bit? Do you think if you'd have been shit this year, and with respect for Liverpool standards you were last year, do you think if you were like fifth now, this would be the case, or do you think no, I've got to carry on? It does sound like, reading between the lines, that this 2.0 has kind of got back towards the top of the league, perhaps quicker than he expected. And I think he himself has supposedly said to the players, I feel more comfortable going now because you've done better than I expected, and I can pass this over in good faith, basically.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, there's a lot of rumours going around that he wanted to walk last summer, and his missus persuaded him to do one more year. So there's rumours going around everywhere of this, that, and the other. I think this 2.0 is as shocked everyone, you know, me included, and all the fans. We didn't expect to kind of, you know, be so good so early. That, you know, it's clicked a lot quicker than we thought it would, and it just seems to be getting better, if I'm honest. And we're getting players back fit now as well to add to that. No, I think his mind was already made up, and I think he just didn't want to leave it with a deteriorating squad. You know, we've seen that in recent years. I think Fergie left a pile of shit, although he kind of won the league somehow with that team the year before he left. I think Wenger did a little bit the same. I think he didn't leave the best kind of squad behind. I think in this case, I think Klopp's left a really good squad for whoever wants to come in, and can come in and kind of not really need to recruit, because whoever it's going to be, he's not going to have a war chest. They're going to have to do it the FSG way, and it's going to have to be, you know, tight strings, and, you know, go off recruitment, off analytics, and trust the guys in the background. I think the data cruncher, Will Spearman is called, isn't it? The kind of guy behind the scenes, the Harvard PhD guy. He'll be doing a lot of that in the background for players, but also the manager, I think, who's best suited to look after this group of players. And I think that's why I mentioned Amorim, because I think his style of football is a little bit closer to Klopp's than Xavi's is. Xavi's is a little bit more possession-based, which Liverpool are a little bit better at that at the moment. But I think Amorim has that little bit more of kind of high intensity, which we've brought back this year.
I think it's interesting thinking about what's next, because I think Alonso feels like the obvious, and probably what most fans, I would guess, would say was obviously an incredible player for you. He's obviously started his managerial career unbelievably well at Bayer Leverkusen, top of the Bundesliga at the moment. You could play them in Europa League, by the way, which probably feels
probably
written.
The final.
I liked Klopp's comments the other day, didn't he? I saw this brilliant video that he did with a young lad from Ireland who didn't have arms or legs, and had come over to Anfield for a game, and they were talking about the prospect of Europa League final being in Dublin. He went, yeah, well, it's another home game, isn't it? And it was a kind of typical cheeky Klopp comment. I wonder though, because there's been so much emotion and connection with Klopp, whereas perhaps some of the previous ones, such as perhaps Brendan Rodgers and Roy Hodgson, there didn't feel like that perhaps connection in quite the same way, despite Brendan Rodgers very nearly won you a league title as well, or Luis Suarez and his mates nearly won you a league title. But I wonder if, like, having that emotional connection again with someone like Alonso is better for this club, because you do seem to work well with a lot of emotions sometimes. Or if you are better off having completely removed, someone new comes in, it's not trying to carry like a Liverpool flag, it's someone coming in and running their own ship. It'd be interesting to see what the club decides to do. I think for most of us neutrals, probably feels like going for Alonso would feel inevitable, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what, like you said, most Liverpool fans would want. That's what I would want. I'm just not sure it would happen. I'm not sure. I mean, Alonso he's going to be a fantastic manager, isn't he? I mean, he's got the pedigree. His dad was a player, and he grew up watching his dad a player, and then his dad was a manager. So, grew up watching him be a manager. He's been a player under Benitez, under Guardiola, under Ancelotti, Del Bosque. It's the list is endless, and he was always an intelligent footballer himself. Anyway, you know what I mean. You could see that the way he played. So, whether it's the right time for him now, does he want to find his feet and do a few years somewhere else? I suppose that's up to Liverpool and him if they do approach him. It does seem like the sensible fit, but I don't think it's a given.
Steven Gerrard's been waiting for this moment for a few years, hasn't he?
Yeah, and maybe there was a time that was right, and he again may become a good manager, but I don't think if we compare him to Alonso, regardless of what they've done as a manager, as players, again, you'd say Alonso was the more intelligent footballer, whereas Gerrard was heart in his sleeve, kind of passion kind of player, wasn't he? Yeah, that'll be the best move, I think, Alonso. But whether that happens remains to be seen.
Where does Klopp rank for you in terms of all-time Liverpool greats? Going back to Shankly and Paisley and Kenny Dalglish's first spell. Is he worthy of being in the conversation of that, or is that obvious?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I don't remember Shankly. Obviously, I'm old, but I'm not that old. I know all the stories and stuff. Again, Paisley's when I first started getting into Liverpool at a young age, and don't really remember him. I was born in '76, so he was, I was like 7, 8, in the early '80s. Dalglish was the first one who had a lasting impression, really. That's when I was like football crazy, and he was the player manager, and Eamon Rush and that Beardsley Barnes, Ray Alton, Whelan, that team, the Lawrence and Hansen, that Mulby. I used to love Ryan Mulby, Steve McMahon, all that era. That was all around Dalglish, and yeah, he's definitely up there. And what he had to go through as manager through the Hillsborough thing and stuff like that. I'd say Dalglish still pips him, but he's definitely number 2. I would say in my lifetime of what I remember, and then probably Benitez and the rest. I wouldn't even really. Yeah, I mean Roy Evans, he was always in the back anyway.
Benitez and Houllier won trophies, didn't they? I mean, Houllier
Yeah,
the cup treble in 2001, but it's not considered that, is it?
No,
in a way,
I don't
Klopp
think
feels like an
so.
auto to be in that conversation, despite only winning one league title. And do you think that's something that would ever count against him in that conversation? I mean, it's worth saying the others didn't have to compete against Pep Guardiola's Manchester City.
Yeah,
But would that count against him?
It may do from other fan bases. I'm friends with fans from a lot of places, particularly United fans, and all the messages on WhatsApp groups and stuff like that are kind of Fergie won this, Fergie won that, and this, that, and the other, and Klopp's only won this. It's not, for me, it's not Klopp as the manager, it's Klopp as the person that I hold in legendary status. He's so, I don't know, influential. He's got his self-awareness. He's intelligent. He gives an answer about everything. He's got an opinion on everything, and it's an educated opinion. And it winds other clubs fans up. But actually, I think what he calling out. I don't know, just refereeing, for example, he's the only one, whereas others are thinking it, but nobody has the bollocks to talk about it. Or even, the amount of matches that these guys are playing in international matches, coming back and this, that, and the other. And people say, oh, he's just whinging, it's this, that, and the other. But actually, it's all for the welfare of the players. It's not for Liverpool Football Club. It's the bigger picture. And I just think him as the man rather than the manager is what I love about him more than anything.
Come on, be honest. It's all them 12:30 kickoffs, mate. It's enough now, isn't it?
Yeah, that part of it, and I think even press conferences, he hates press conferences. He just has this sarcastic tone with all the reporters because he knows whatever he says is going to be just made into something else. and he's just sick of it now. He's just like, yeah, I think one of the recent ones, he said he does about 6 a day, and he's just like, he can't wait to not do a press conference. But I mean, his main reason, what he said, is he just wants to live life a little bit. He's been doing this for 24 years, and they even asked him what do you want to do that's normal, and he said, I don't know what normal is. I'll figure that out. You know what I mean? But he's looking forward to it, and I think that's why he said, no club, no country for 12 months, and no English club ever again. But I think he's saying that because of the 12-month thing that he talks about in Liverpool, that everybody has to commit 12 months, regardless of how long your contract is. He spoke about that in interviews as well, and said, regardless if you've got a 6-year contract, it's always reviewed after 12 months. If you've had a brilliant season, you might want more money, then we talk about it. If you've had a crap season, we want to sell you, we'll talk about it. So I think he's giving himself them 12 months to kind of say, do I like being away from football? Do I miss it? Is it,
he'll be back, I think,
is this
mate.
normal life what it always cracked up to be? And I think he just wants to try that, and fair play to him.
When I say he's back, it might be that he manages Germany or something like that. But I don't see this being the end of his managerial career. No way.
Yeah, I don't know. It depends, doesn't it? He's like I said before, he's such an emotional character that it must drain you, and maybe he needs to refuel and refresh and come back revigorated after 12 months. Or maybe he just says, well, I've done it for 24 years. I don't need to work again, does he? And maybe I'll just do punditry and just, but we don't know. You can't imagine that's the kind of person he would be. He's probably going to do 6 months, absolutely hate it and want to come back, but you just never know.
So it's February 2025. And Liverpool have just lost 3-0 away in their Champions League first leg, last 16 match. You're sitting 8th in the league. The new manager's not doing very well. Does the phone get picked back up then?
I don't think they'll pick the phone back up, but if he picked the phone up, they'd bite his arm off, I think. I think they know exactly where they stand. He's that kind of strong personality that he said, I want this time off, and don't contact me. If I am interested again, I'll contact you, kind of thing. And yeah, it all depends on how long FSG stay there as well, because he's got a good relationship with them, regardless to what everybody thinks about what they do and don't spend. He bought into that in the end, and he knew what he had to play with. And yes, sometimes it was frustrating for him, I'm sure. But at the same time, he likes the sustainability model that Liverpool have. That they've built a new training complex which costs 50 million plus quid. 2 new stands, and Anfield's growing, and the club's grown. And at the same time, I think I had a look. Yeah, he spent his net spend is 400 million in 8 years.
Is that his whole period? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nothing,
which is brilliant to compete at that level. That size of the club is phenomenal.
That's a Chelsea January transfer.
Well, exactly. That's what Chelsea did in the summer, isn't it?
I had the privilege of being at Klopp's first game. I say privilege because it was hard work. Rocked up at White Hart Lane, drew 0-0, and this very aggressive pressing system where right from the bat, you could tell that this was going to be a very different Liverpool. We heard words get mentioned the first couple of years, like rock and roll football, heavy metal football. Yeah, you could see that right from the off. Do you remember what that team looked like at Tottenham? I've got it sitting in front of me. It's barely believable.
I do, because I looked at it myself. I was trying to think who would get in that team now.
None of them, mate. Maybe Coutinho.
Maybe Lucas was the only one I was thinking as a CDM.
Well, Emery Chan was a good footballer.
I'd take Lucas over Chan. I think Coutinho was in there, wasn't it? Moreno, Sacco, Skirtle, Klein, Milner, Coutinho, Lallana, Origi.
Yeah, and the bench isn't anything to write home about either.
No.
I think you did have a couple of injuries at the time, such as Daniel Sturridge and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it shows how far the progression was. And
that's not all down to Klopp, let's face it.
No. As you said,
recruitment was brilliant, weren't it? And that's not down to Klopp. He's not saying I want this player, I want that player.
With a net spend on kind of average of 50 million a year over that 8-year period, it had to be. And it
Yeah,
did have the sales of the likes of Coutinho in there
yeah,
that
which
we
helped a
know
lot.
had a big impact in sort of Van Dijk and Alisson, which I know a lot of people think was kind of the final push in the puzzle towards you winning the title. A
Hmm.
few months after that 0-0 draw at White Hart Lane, and I don't know how it finished 0-0 by the way, because you should have been winning by half time. I went to Dortmund in the UEFA Cup to
Hmm.
play Thomas Tuchel's Borussia Dortmund, and we got absolutely walloped. 3-0, should have been 6 or 7. They bet knocked us out comfortably. Then in the next round, in the quarterfinal, they played you. And I was quite comfortable telling anybody that would listen what Dortmund were going to do to you, because my Tottenham were better than you, actually, at that time. We finished third, you might remember, in a 2-horse race that season, while
Leicester, yeah.
while Klopp tried to acclimatise.
We finished eighth, I think.
And you drew 1-1 in Dortmund, and I was like, yeah, they'll still get them at Anfield. Sure enough, they were
4-3.
3-1 up at Anfield, taking the piss out of you. And then Liverpool did this weird thing that they do so often. And you won 4-3 on the night and went
Mm,
through. I remember away goals was obviously still a thing at that time as
yeah.
well. So you had to
I
win the
remember
game.
Lovren's header more than anything, back post header.
I presume there's an obvious answer to this, but I'd mention that because I think it's a bit of a forgotten one. But I guess that was probably Klopp's first great Anfield night, perhaps.
Yeah, I think it probably was, because that was really early on.
Yeah, that's
And
within
some
his
some of
first
some of the
6 months.
some of the bigger wins came, in the 18, 19, 19, 20, and yeah, but that one in the 15-16 season, the 4-3, yeah, that
What's
that
what
that was it.
what's the most memorable? Is it Barca? It's got to be, isn't
It's,
it?
it's got to be Barca. It's got to be the 4-0 Barcelona. Yeah, after the first leg, and thinking, Liverpool fans are so optimistic when it comes to Champions League and Anfield. They're always so optimistic. So everyone was thinking, oh, we could turn it around. It's like, yeah, but it's Messi Barcelona. It's not going to happen. But actually, it after like 2-0, it just had that feeling that they're going to do it, and it was unreal, unbelievable. Goosebumps just thinking about it now.
What others stick out? Are there any other games that particularly stick out in the memory? I guess the Manchester United.
Yeah, the
Wh-
7-0 United, the
Which
5-0 United, the
which one?
4-0 United. They all stick out. 4-3 City.
Yeah,
That was a good one.
that was City's first defeat when they got 100 points. I want to say maybe.
Yeah, it was the
And
18
and you
season.
also had perhaps a forgotten one as well, the quarterfinal against City in the first leg
Yeah,
in the
I went to
Champions
that
League
one.
as well.
Yeah, I went to that. I went to both legs, and I got tickets for the away one. I was sat in the away end. That wasn't nice. 5-1 against Arsenal. I enjoyed that one. Firmino's hat-trick, because I used to love Bobby as well.
Possibly my favourite, actually, and now you've mentioned it.
2-0 against Spurs, but for obvious reasons, it wasn't a great game. But obviously, we won the Champions League, so that was good.
Yeah, I said to you off
Uh,
camera before we started, both teams had such monumental results in the semi-final, then had to wait 3 weeks from the end of the Premier League season. And I was out there. It was mad hot. And obviously you scored so early and it
yeah.
impacted the game massively where, maybe if we'd have scored first, we'd have played like you did that night. You didn't have to play that well
Mm.
on that particular night. Are there any that you look back on, you think, what if only? I suppose
There's the
uh,
Madrid where Salah had to go off with Ramos being a prick. That hurt, and especially I was in a cricket club watching that, and full of United pricks, and that wound me up no end, because they were all laughing that Salah went off and stuff.
you know that's coming, Dan.
Yeah, I know, you set yourself up for it, don't you? But yeah, there's the goal line clearance.
The John Stones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some money that
I
changes
mean, you talk
everything.
about moments in football and fine lines. There's the John Stones, was it kicking it against Edison's back and then God knows how he recovered.
Yeah,
And
it's
then even think back to the Barcelona game and Dembele's chance at 3-0 for
oh yeah,
Barcelona.
yeah.
And how surely at 4-0 you don't recover, do you? Maybe
Well,
you did.
no,
And
you
the
would
other
have
thing
thought
about that
so.
Barcelona night, the second leg is have people forget like how many injuries you had that night.
Yeah,
Salah didn't play, did he? Mane didn't play either.
no, that's why Origi was on, wasn't he? And yeah, I mean, Wijnaldum stepped up, didn't he? And he had an habit of doing that on big games. He
Yeah.
scored some big goals, did Wijnaldum? And that's another example of the recruitment we referred to earlier. You know, Wijnaldum, Newcastle, he was all right, wasn't he? He wasn't, but he fit the bill. Yeah, there's just a few like that, isn't there, where you just think, oh, if that, it could have been so different.
We've all got them stories, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. Every single fan base, regardless of whether it means a Champions League, a league title, or whatever. Just sometimes it's against a rival, isn't it? You know, the Everton game sticks out actually for where he hit the bar and Pickford kind of
The Origi goal.
Yeah, the Origi goal in the second minute of injury time.
And that was the famous celebration from Klopp, wasn't it? When he went nuts and ran on the pitch.
Yeah, ran on the pitch and hugged Alisson. Yeah. Or there was the even funnier one of the celebrations was the 5-4 against Norwich, where he broke his glasses.
Broke his glasses, yeah.
Everyone jumped on him, so he's there.
That sums up a lot of early Liverpool, that game, remembering back. I always remember going to a game in the 16-17 season, which would have been his first full season. Yeah. And Chelsea had this brilliant run where they'd won 13, 14 games in a row, and then they lost to us. And it felt like there were numbers, my club, Arsenal, Liverpool, kind of all on the coattails. And I remember going to, I think it was playing Middlesbrough in the 5-13, and you lost at Hull. And it just felt so typical of Liverpool at that time that you couldn't find a consistency. Because I think your record in the big games at the time, in his first couple of years particularly, was astonishing. But then you'd have these mad ones, like you'd lose the Hull. I remember you losing at home to Swansea one lunchtime as well.
Yeah, I remember that.
Some really silly results, but eventually you found the consistency once. I think, Alisson and Van Dijk were the game changers. Who would be a standout player of these 8-9 years if you had to name one?
I think you'd probably just name the two there, but you could, Salah, Firmino, Mane, even Wijnaldum, Trent, obviously. That's the core, isn't it?
You throw Henderson into that category.
Yeah, to a certain extent. He's not well. He's like a 50-50. He's like a bit of a Marmite. I'm on the side. I liked Henderson, but I know big Liverpool fans who couldn't wait to get him out the door, really, and thought he offered nothing. So, yeah, but I mean, it was that front three, wasn't it? When they clicked, they were unreal, and they stayed fit for so long, didn't they? No injuries. Obviously, Van Dijk was massive, and Alisson. I'd say Alisson has just got better over the years because in the early, he's always been a good solid keeper, but we've got leakier as time has gone by, and he's had to prove his worth even more. Not to mention like popping up for corners against West Brom and popping one.
Oh God, that's another one, isn't it? But you forget the behind closed doors one, weren't you? You won 7-0 at Palace. And I went on the podcast on the Monday and I was like, that is it. Ain't no one stopping them. And 2 months later, he was like sixth. Just fell apart, didn't it? Why do you think that happened? And it was the injuries. The injuries at the time.
Season, yeah. And I think I said at the time, a lot of it was fatigue from the season before. Because of this high intensity football that he brought, it was kind of pretty much new to the league at the time, wasn't it? That kind of pressing didn't really exist. And because the players stayed fit for so long, they were doing it for 60 game seasons, like back to back. And I think he just caught up on them in the end, and they needed to stop doing it, which he did. And now he kind of changed to like there were certain triggers where the press would come in, depending on where the opposition had the ball and who was in certain positions. And then that kind of, that last season didn't really work. And this season, it's kind of a bit more intense again, and we've had joy because of it.
Yeah, his teams are at his best when they're intense, mate.
Yeah, of course,
high energy.
Yeah, and then it's just Klopp. He'll just miss Klopp as a person. The amount of just press conferences where just some of the moments he's had in press conferences, which some people will be like, oh, he's a complete arsehole and stuff like that. But the little ones, the translator in the Champions League, and then the guy speaking French, and he's got the translator in his ear, and he's got like this really sexy voice, and then Klopp's like, wow, that's erotic. Again, please, and stuff like that. And
I've never seen that one.
Have you seen the brain fog one?
Brain fog, no.
No. So Klopp was calling it brain fuck. And he's like, why when everybody else says it, it's okay, but whenever I say it, he didn't even know it was brain fog. Pulling his hammy against you guys when Jota scored, that was funny.
Oh God, yeah.
I like the
But that
video.
also in that same moment, as much as that was funny, like he got in the referee's face, didn't he?
Yeah.
He
He was
did go over
berating
the
the
top.
referee from earlier. Yeah, right in his face. This is why, for me, it's funny as a Liverpool fan. This is the kind of reason why opposition fans don't like him.
Yeah.
But opposition fans now will be buzzing that he's going because it's like,
I think yeah, and that's a good closing point. I think that some of the piss taking, and I've done it, the 12:30s, it's windy, the corner flag's blown and all that. It's part out of envy, right? Because it's so bloody good. And that always one of the regular questions I had when we was going through these boring sets of managers was if you could take anyone, I nearly always said Klopp, because you just knew it would be fun again if you had someone like that in charge of your team. And I think what I definitely know, you see that with that video with the young Irish lad I mentioned and stuff. In terms of him, the human, yeah, you can definitely relate to that. And anything that's pissed people off is because he's bought into the tribalism of being Liverpool manager and the kind of us against world mentality that I
yeah,
think you
does
need
it?
at
He
times
loves it. He loves that part
to
of it.
manage
He
a
loves
club
that
like that.
element of it. Yeah, he does.
Yeah. Absolutely super manager. I think one of the all-time best in the Premier League. And I said this on a Patreon pod that we did. I don't think it should count against him when we talk about great Premier League managers that he won one Premier League title because of what he's gone up against. Throw your team in the 90s or the noughties,
Yeah,
it would have won
it's three, isn't it?
a lot more without
Yeah,
question.
that's
I
it.
must touch on FPL before we let you go. At time of recording, which is 9 p.m. on Monday evening, no Liverpool Luton announcement yet for Double Gameweek 25, but we think it's probably coming.
Mm-hmm.
Briefly, Dan, what's your intention with Liverpool assets at the moment?
Well, I've still got Trent. I held him through his injury, so he's obviously back now. Whether he gets his place back, I think Connor Bradley will be a bit reluctant to let it go the way he's been
It's
playing.
been
But
good, hasn't
he's been very good, surprisingly good. Um, I mean, Salah comes in if he's, however his rehab goes, how long it is, I don't know. We don't know yet. Obviously, we know Egypt are out, so regardless, he's not going back there. I think I said the last podcast, I said Jota's probably the best shout, and I don't change that opinion. I think he probably is still the best shout. And maybe Nunez as well if Salah's not back.
Yeah, it does feel. I mean, what's
It's
your intention? Is
frustrating.
it to leave money for Salah, or is it just if I've got to get there, I'll take a -4 and deal with it?
Yeah, no, I'll need to take hits. I think if I want to get, which in my head I do, I want to get De Bruyne, Hall, and Salah.
Blimey,
Uh,
with Trent, it's not
yeah,
manageable,
with
mate.
Trent already, I can do it. I've worked it out. I can do it, but I would have to take a couple of hits to do it, or not necessarily. I could do it over kind of maybe I'd probably get away with a -4 ready for then.
Would you consider just trying to work on the basis here, just hypothetically, that Mo's not back for the minute for 25? Do you definitely, if this double happens, do you definitely captain, say, a Haaland in the double then with City,
If he's definitely back,
or would you be tempted to go? I can take him on with Jota or Trent or Nunez or something like that.
I think if Haaland's back and he's got a couple of 90 minutes under his belt by then, I think it's a no-brainer. But it all depends on where you sit in an FPL. I'm very much a mini league player and not so much so the overall kind of rank and climb up the ranks. Obviously, they lend themselves to each other, but if I'm chasing, then yeah, I'd probably have a punt on, maybe a De Bruyne, maybe a Foden or a Jota or a Nunez. If I'm want to, consolidate, I'm kind of up at the top, then I play safe and go Haaland. That's the way I play the game.
What about double defensive? Adding something to Trent, i.e. Van Dijk or even Robertson now that he's back potentially, or Allison.
Yeah, it's possible. I'm not convinced. I think Luton are difficult, aren't they? Set pieces, they always put you under. They'll get the free kicks in and around.
As will
And
Brentford in your other game as
yeah,
well.
that's what I was going to allude to them as well, because we've always struggled against Brentford to keep clean sheets. So if I was going to double defence, if you knew we were playing, I'd probably go City. City look tight. Look like they're not going to concede many.
Yeah, I've got Trent. Would like to get Jota, I think, in 24 is kind of my plan. And I might have to sit on it with just the two. I think
Mm.
maybe. I think it's either, yeah, sure, I might be able to obliterate the team like you might be able to get Salah back if that's the case. But I think as I probably wouldn't captain him, I'd need huge clarity to do that, considering you then blank in 26 as well. And
Mm.
I can't really see me working in Nunes or Van Dijk when you don't play in 26 afterwards. Feels like it's possibly going to be a bit too
Yeah,
much.
but some people will do that and just
Oh,
take it
definitely.
and hope for
And
the best, won't they?
it's also relative to probably how many Chelsea, Tottenham, Luton players you've got along with that in terms of manipulating
Yeah,
26. If you haven't got any Tottenham, then it becomes way easier, for example, to go, yeah, treble
yeah. I've
Liverpool and
only
then
got Porro, I think, but he was part. I was partly planning on losing Porro anyway to pull back a bit of funds to do what I wanted to do to get the four of them in. I think with Madison back on the scene, you'll know more than me being the Tottenham man, but I just think he'll probably be off set pieces as much as he is and stuff.
hey, Madison will definitely pick some of them up. Yeah. Ask me after
Yeah,
Wednesday night. I might be able to give you a
I
better
think.
answer on that.
Yeah, I think with regards to Salah, I think if he plays any part of 24
Yeah, then you want.
against Burnley, then you bring him in. I think, you're getting at least 90 and a 30 or 60, aren't you, of the other one, I think. And on paper, the two fixtures, particularly Luton at home, we may concede, but I'd fancy us to get a few goals. Brentford would be a bit trickier, but they're up and down, aren't they, at the moment? So if he's fit, he's got to come in, hasn't he, I think? And then have your captain, and
Sort of hoping he's not, because it just makes the
it
decision
will
easy.
make it
It makes the
easier.
decision easy, isn't it? Oh, I just ignore him.
But if he is, then that's decision to make for a lot of
Yeah.
managers, isn't it? And it makes it a bit more
Yeah, no, it'd be better for the
interesting.
game if he's back.
Yeah,
No
yeah.
doubt about it. Definitely be better for the game if he's back. Thank you very much, Dan. I enjoyed that very much, mate. I wish you the very best of luck for the rest of the season, particularly in game week 23. How many trophies are you going to win this season, Dan, for
Four,
Jurgen?
four,
One,
four,
four, yeah.
four. We're going for all of it. Not messing about this year.
Realistically,
Um,
let's just talk about the league
so
briefly. Cup competitions are cup competitions. The league.
I'd stick by my guns. I think we'll still struggle to top City, but like I say, if we come away with at least 4 points, but preferably 6 in the next two, and then we obviously get the result we're expected to get in the other games of the lower clubs, then I'd fancy us. I think if we're kind of still where we are come mid-March, I fancy us to kind of do it, really.
Oh, what's happening mid-March? Roundabouts the 10th, I believe. That's Man City rocking up at Anfield. I wouldn't be surprised if that's potentially definitive. I feel like this would be the first time you'd have played City in a run-in late on, and I think that's fairly late on, sort of last 10-ish games,
Mm.
where you'll be at home. I feel like it's happened, and it's probably been at the Etihad a few times. That's how it feels. You normally played them earlier in the season, it's normally felt like.
Yeah, I don't know to categorically say that's right, but yeah, it feels the same to me. We always get City at home like 18, 19, 20, something like that. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see, isn't it? There's a long way to go, and things could change. I think it all depends on how we keep emotions in check now, from now until the
And
end.
injuries, isn't it? It's the
Yeah,
understated, but something happens to Alisson and Van Dijk, for example, it's a major
yeah.
problem, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, but I'm more confident now with seeing Kwanzaa come in, and with Bradley coming in, and Gomez playing left back, or he could play centre back. That depth doesn't worry me the same. I've seen it as good, how good they can be, and yeah, there'll be a massive miss if we get injuries like that. But we've got decent depth now. In midfield we've got loads. McAllister, Jones. Thiago's back anytime soon by the looks of it. We've got that to add into the mix, and he's not going to be playing games, but he's a game changer. If it's 0-0 after 60 minutes, we'll throw Thiago on and get a bit of magic or whatever. So I'm quietly confident, and I'm not usually like this, as you know.
No, you're not actually. Yeah.
I'm usually pessimistic. I think it's probably just riding on the back of the kind of Klopp news, really, and it's probably put me in a false sense of security or something.
I no doubt you can feel the kind of the romantic narrative to how this ends. And winning football matches helps, right? A very good run of form certainly helps as well. Dan, brilliant chat. Thank you so much, mate. Other than going to look at fog fucks, what is it? Brain fucks.
Brain fog. It is, yeah, brain fucks.
Brain
listen to the my favourite one is the Brummie commentator where he asks him about the Villa game.
Oh, he just doesn't understand.
He doesn't understand anyone. Yeah. Sorry, what? Like, what did you just say to me? You can see his face, like the confusion building.
Maybe you can, if there's like a highlight reel of Klopp's funniest moments or something,
there's loads going around.
Knock us out a link or something and we'll share it as well, mate.
I'll send you some.
Good stuff. Thank you so much, mate. Dan, you can follow FPL_Loco Lord on Twitter. Suj, be back with me for the Sky Fantasy Football podcast tomorrow. And for those of you on YouTube, if you want to join me for the deadline stream, that's at 5 p.m. UK time today. Just season. So thanks very much, Dan. Good luck for the rest of the season, pal. Cue music, please. Man, sharp.